It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
In the criminal justice system, sexually-based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
Okay, hey y'all. So today I'm gonna do a story time on how I was dating a married minister and I did not know that he was married, by the way. Not that kind of girl. But okay, so I'm gonna try to make this into like maybe 3 parts. So I'm gonna try to keep it real fast and get to the point as much as possible.
She lied.
So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give a little backstory. So I'm 22 years old. He's 26 years old. And yeah. And he's a minister, and he also had like a job, but I'm not gonna say what job field he worked in, but like an office kind of job, I'll say. Well, like a corporate job, I guess we could call it. And so yeah. And so I'm in college, by the way. And we're just gonna leave it at that. And I do have a job. But so basically, I'm gonna do the backstory on how we met. So basically, he had just been in my DM for a very long time, like for a few months now. Mind y'all, this story is very fresh still. So back in December, that's when he first started DMing me, but I didn't really pay him no mind. Never really responded. January he would DM me, February he DM'd me, did not really respond. And so I would like his messages here and there, but like never really respond. So finally, middle of February, right after Valentine's Day, I end up responding, and I'm like, hey, like, yes, you can get to know me, whatever, right? Now, from his Facebook, I could, like, of course I went through the Facebook. All I can really tell is, like, obviously he goes to church, he's a minister, he's involved in the church, whatever the case may be, right? So, boom. So, Sunday we start texting, right after Valentine's, this is like the Sunday after Valentine's Day, I believe. And, everything's cool, like, we're just having deep conversation, whatever. Now, this is when I started to pick up on red flags, and I knew in my heart, like, my discernment was telling me, something is not right about this man. So, basically, the first thing I noticed was that I thought was a red flag was when we first started texting, he told me like how much money he made a year, which I just feel like that's like, obviously some people are different, but I just feel like that's something that you don't tell somebody when you first start texting them. And so he has to take me on a date that week, that Friday. My job, this is Sunday. And I was just kind of like, sure. Like I basically said no at first because I'm like, I don't really know you like that. And I need to do a little bit more background research on this man. And so y'all, he willingly gave me his name, his first, last name, and middle name, and his address and everything. So everything but that social, okay? And so basically, of course, y'all know I looked him up on everything, okay? Did a little background check. Now I seen a little bit of stuff, but nothing too concerning, right? And so I'm gonna get to what I saw though. And so I was just like, okay, I thought that was a red flag, right? So finally on that Monday, the next day, I'm like, he's really cool. We're like, our conversations are really good, boom, we can like, I'm okay with us going on a date on Friday. So boom, so we end up going on a date. But before that, on that Tuesday, we FaceTimed, and he was at work, and he FaceTimed me while he was on his lunch break or whatever, and he was in the office. Now I am very like more low-key quiet, like I'm not gonna be on the phone in front of a whole bunch of people with a new person, I don't know. But he was in the office, no headphones, nothing, just on the phone, okay? And so I'm just like mind y'all, there's a lot of people around. It's not like one private office, right, that this man has. So he ended up like, we were on FaceTime like just that whole day. And so maybe like that next day or maybe that same day, it's real late at night and we're on FaceTime, y'all, and he's still at work till like 11-12 o'clock at night. But he told me he had a client that was somewhere else in like the time change or whatever. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So like I told y'all, he gave me his address, and when I looked up the address, it was a little different from what he told me. So what he told me was that he had been engaged before, but he was no longer engaged because she cheated on him. He told me that he owned he had owned a condo. He used to own a house, but he sold it, but then he owned a condo. And yeah, so this whole week he's telling me like just all these different things. And so that same day though, he took an Uber home when we were on FaceTime real late when he was at work. And he told me though, because he drives a really nice car, he said, and he didn't like, my jaw's cold where we lived at the time. So he told me he didn't like driving his car when it was cold, which was fine. It was cool. So I'm just like, okay, like whatever. He mentioned what kind of car he had, but I did not remember after he told me in the moment, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. But mind y'all, something's still off about this man to me. So he even would mention how he would go on, like how he had went on other dates with people and why he cut other females off. Like he would block females, one of those kind of guys. He claims that he would block them for like little things, like maybe they went on a date and she wore something too short, or she bent over improper, And he would block these girls or leave the date because of these reasons, right? And so I'm just like, okay. And so I'm just like, okay, like, you like classy females. That's kind of what I got from it, right? Now, he told me that he was going to Houston to go preach, right? And so he sent me a voice memo, and like literally you could hear, like, you know when you could hear somebody's like actually on the plane, like you could hear the sound of like being in the air, and like the call button, could hear that and everything. So he told me that he was down there to preach, and it was just like a little weird because like it was just weird, like something was just off. Like I didn't really feel like he was down there, right? Like I said, he's in Houston, and he tells me that they got him an Airbnb that was far away from the hotel, or far away from the where he was gonna be preaching at. But mind y'all, his job is global, so they have different offices. So then he also mentioned how he was going to the office of his job that was down in Houston. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, cool. Now, he's telling me all this whole week how, like, you know, like, he think he found his wife, talk about me, and, like, all this kind of stuff. And it was, like, how I was, like, God sent. He had been praying for somebody like me. But, you know, he did tell me that my age did concern him. But he was like, you're very mature for your age, yada, 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 right? Cool. Okay, so the same time he's in Houston, he sends me a picture of him. He was like, yeah, it's going to be a long night. That's what the text said. And he sent me a screenshot, and it was, like, a Bible and a MacBook computer, right? So I'm like, okay, but mind y'all, I had did a little bit background research, and so I had literally seen that picture before on his pastor's Facebook. So I'm like, and yes, I did go do a little strolling, like as you should. So I'm like, what the fuck, like this is the same picture. So I asked one of my guy friends, I'm like, hey, like, do you think I should say something about this? And he was like, yeah, you should. So I sent him that picture. I was like, hey, you know, I really like you so far, and everything's going well, but this is a little weird because this is literally the same picture that came from your pastor's Facebook. All you did was zoom in a little bit. So y'all, he kind of tries to gaslight me a little bit and like, Trinity, like, you're crazy, like, I don't know what kind of people you've been with in the past, but Then he goes to tell me it was an inside joke. He said, I meant to send that to a whole nother chat. It wasn't supposed to go to you. It was like an inside joke we have though. So I'm just like, okay, whatever, cool. So that Friday, that was in the middle of the week. So that Friday we go on a date. And so we were supposed to go to Hibachi, but I was going to Hibachi that Sunday with my family. So I let him know, like, hey, do you think we could go somewhere else? So we end up going somewhere else. Now, we go to this very nice restaurant, y'all. And like I said, he's already mentioned, like, how he just has so much money. And like I said, he was previously with somebody. Now, oh, I forgot to mention, that Thursday before we go on the date, y'all, he sends me $150. Like, he literally had told me that he was going to do that. So I'm just like, okay, cool. He did Apple Pay me $150. And so I'm like, okay. And at this point, I had let him know, like, I did feel like he was doing a little too much. Not money-wise, but I'm saying, like, he was just kind of, like, pushing, like, the way that he liked me and wanted to be with me a little too much. In my job, we only been talking for a few days. Not saying that you don't know. You can't know in a few days, but it was a little weird, and it was a little too much for me, and I let him know that. So he sends me the $150, and he also lets me know that same day that his ex-fiance asked him for money for her child's childcare that day, right? And I'm like, well, you don't have to let me know that because we're not dating and whatever. And he's like, you know, I just believe in being transparent, whatever the case may be. So I'm like, okay, cool. But let him know that I was a little bit uncomfortable with him letting me know that because we're not together, right? So that Friday we go on the date. Now, like I said, we didn't end up going to Hibachi, so he picked somewhere else. Now, he picked somewhere that's at a mall by where we live at. And so if you live in Columbus, it was at Easton. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So, you know, that night, that evening, we go on this date. You know, I get dressed, whatever the case may be, all that. So we end up meeting up there. And, you know, he brought me flowers. They were really pretty. I might insert it if I can, but really pretty flowers. He even got me a gift. I had reposted on my Facebook that I wanted, that I liked the little Princess Tiana Bath and Body Works that they had came out with, and he got me that, and I thought that was really thoughtful and cute. So we go to dinner. Dinner was great. The vibe was pretty good. Now, like I said, he even told me how he would complain about other women that he had been with and say, like, he didn't like how they ate, like, just little things like that. So I was, of course, a little bit cautious because I'm like, you know, I don't want to get the boot. So at this time. So I'm like, okay, like, you know, everything was nice. So we go to dinner. It was great. It was an expensive place. Dinner probably was about $150, I'd say. And obviously, y'all, he paid or whatever. So then after that, he's like, do you want to go get dessert? So I'm like, sure. So we end up going to the Cheesecake Factory. And so we go to the bar. We eat cheesecake there. And he got drinks. I did not drink. And he told me that he didn't drive his car there because he said that, you know, he doesn't like drinking and driving. But now, y'all, he did offer me, like, ask me that I want to drink. Now, I just thought that was a little weird because, like, you don't like drinking and driving, so why would you want me to drink and drive? But, you know, hey, who am I to say? So, yeah, so he ends up we go like to Cheesecake Factory. Everything was great. The date was great. Like we talked, got to know each other a little bit more, whatever. And so at this point, our date was from like 6 p.m. to about midnight. So that night, I go home, tell everybody like the date was great, show them everything that he got. So before this third date, I mentioned to him some like red flags that I had. So one was the whole house thing, because when I'm looking up this address that he supposedly lives at, it's not coming up. Well, it would come up, but it would be shown in an apartment complex. Mind y'all, he told me he owned his own condo. And I'm just like, so I mentioned that as a red flag to him. And I let him know, like, I just thought that was a little weird. And y'all, he would always be texting me and calling me like a lot. And it was a little too much, because I literally am a full-time college student and I work part-time, and I still got to balance other life stuff on top of that. So it was like, that'd be a lot to me. And I let him know that, and he'd find that like disrespectful. Like, he's one of those guys who you can't say like the slightest thing to him and he'd find it like pretty disrespectful, right? Kind of like put you in your place kind of dude. And then also, I mentioned to him, so when we went to BJ's, I thought I seen a vape in his hand, but I could have been tripping. And I asked him, like, do you smoke or, like, do you vape after that? And he let me know. He's like, no, like, do you have a problem with people to do? I was like, no, I don't really care. And he told me he didn't. And then also, he mentioned, now about this car. So he's still Ubering everywhere at this point. And I remember when I did a little background, I seen a few tickets on his record, but then also I seen that he had got sued by a car company or credit company, and the car had got repoed about 2 years ago. So, excuse me, I'm like, maybe about a year and a half ago, but almost 2 years ago. And so I'm like, okay, but he told me that, somebody else put the car in that name, like, or he put a car in his name for somebody else and they did not pay for the car and the car got repoed. So I'm like, okay, it sounds believable. Then he mentioned to me that I did not see a vape. And then he also mentioned to me that, basically he just made it seem like I was crazy, y'all, okay? That everything was just made up. He mentioned little other things like, you see how I just can pay the bill without looking at it, just like being very cocky about him having money, mentioned how he was bougie several times, whatever the case may be, right? So I'm like, okay, now mind y'all, let me mention something back. Let me go back to them flowers now. So the first set of flowers that he got me, remember I mentioned he said he got them at Whole Foods. Well, when I unwrapped the paper, there's like a sticker on the paper. It said Bloom Haas. Now, if you live, on the East Coast or wherever they have Kroger, or the Midwest, I think, is where Kroger are. Bloom Haas is a Kroger flower brand. He got the flowers at Kroger, but he told me he got them at Whole Foods, which I thought was a little red flag, but whatever. And so, he told me that, also when I addressed these red flags, I told him, like, your house, this address is not popping up where you said it's supposed to be at. Y'all. He told me, oh, I never told you that I own my condo. I told you that I rented it. I told you that I used to own a house and I sold it. Okay. Mind y'all can look everything up on the auditor site, who owns what, but okay. So at this point, I'm like, he's a liar. Like, but, I don't know him enough to say that he is one, because he could be telling the truth. So I'm like, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I just am not healed. So I'm just like, okay.
The gas is lit.
So he mentions all those things, and, I'm just like, okay, the mom died. So, of course, I kind of follow up on that. Like, well, when's the funeral? Little things like that. But I kind of get, like, pushed off responses, right? So now, mention those red flags. So now we go on this third date. Okay? And so this was on a Thursday. And so I remember did I have work that next morning? I did. I had work the next morning. And so this is around the same time I, like, end up ending things, because I'm just like, something just isn't right about him. Like, my discernment just kept telling me.
I was gonna only make it 2 or 3
parts. So we go on the third date. So y'all know, like I said, I have all those red flags and whatever. So now I remember. So if you know me, I'm like I'm actually a homebody. Like, I like being at home chilling, and so I feel like we went on enough dates. We FaceTimed enough, and everything like that. So, let's do this. So, like, let's go on this date or whatever. So, like, he told me that we can go to his house and chill. Now, he did tell me that he's been robbed before by a female that he's invited over. He told me that, I guess she took something of his while she was at his home. And then the second time, that I guess somebody came over and robbed him, right? So, I'm like, okay. So we go on this date. We go to another. He ends up telling me, like I said, we're supposed to go to his house, but he ends up telling me, hey, you're gonna have to dress up and we're gonna go on a date, and then we'll go to my house after. Cool. Now, he thought I was spending the night, but I knew in my head, I'm not staying at this man's house, right? So we go on this date, and he's like, like, I asked him, are we going to your house after? And he's like, yeah. So we go out to dinner, and we go to this really nice restaurant, very good. The server was great. I plan on going back and taking my cousin. It was great. So we go to this restaurant. It was very nice. Table was decorated with hearts. It was really, really pretty. Dinner was great. Conversation was okay. Now, mind y'all, when we went to the first date, he told me that he's the type of guy, like, if he doesn't like one thing, he'll get up and leave. He'll pay for the dinner, but he'll leave the date, right? So I mentioned how I have if you don't know this, sorry, but it's going out there now. I have matching tattoos with my ex-boyfriend, and he told me, he was like, I let him know that, and he basically, he was gonna like leave, but he thought it was a name tattoo or whatever, which it's not, but I guess he did not like that. So he was gonna leave the date, right? Which y'all see why that's a red flag. So I'm like, okay. He also was gonna leave at the fact that who I trained, like, workout with, he didn't like that, who I was working out with, it, because it was a man. And so he'd even mention little things, like, when I would bring up these red flags, like, I don't need to lie to a 22-year-old, whatever. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I'm delusional, right? Okay, so we go on this date. So after the date, the dinner, we end up we're supposed to be going back to his house, right? But wherever we're going is about 15-20 minutes away from the location. Now, mind y'all, he tells me that he lives, if you live in Columbus, he tells me that he lives, let's just say, like, the Berwick, Bexley area. He tells me that he lives over there. Now, we're up at dinner off of near Ohio State's campus, right? And so where we're going is about 10-15 minutes away from the dinner. Okay, now mind y'all, that could be about, the drive from OSU to Bexley is about 20 minutes. So I'm just like, okay. So and mind y'all, the address that we're going to is not the original address that he gave me, that he told me that he lived at. So I'm like, something's just not right. So we go to this place, y'all, and it's like a little apartment. He tells me he has to go in real quick, and then I can come in. So at this point, I let my cousin know, hey girl, look at my location. So she looks the address up, and she even looks the place up there. She's like, oh, it's really nice, whatever. So we get up in there. I'm looking around. Y'all, this looked like an Airbnb because of, like, the setup, the little papers around, saying, like, welcome, whatever. He lets me know. He said, this is where I come when I'm a little stressed and I need to get away. So I'm like, oh, okay. But, y'all, he's saying, like, using possessive terms, like, this is my remote. He told me, oh, I just bought these sheets in here, like, do you want to see my bathroom? Like, just like using possessive things. So I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, but this is literally not yours. And there were some flowers there, y'all. And he told me that he got the flowers at Flowerama. Now, if you live in Columbus, when you go to Flowerama, that they wrap it in Flowerama paper, y'all. That paper was not wrapped in Flowerama paper. Them flowers came right from Kroger, but okay. And so, also, he got me a little purse. Now, I'm not trying to be ungrateful, y'all. I'm not. But the little purse, it had no tags on it, nothing. And I'm going to insert a clip of what this purse looked like, okay? And I'm just like, okay. And that day, I was carrying a Burberry purse. And he, like, literally, he was like, oh, I guess this little purse I got you. It was a Calvin Klein purse, by the way, that he got me. And it was like a small little bag. Now, if you know me, I'm a big purse girl. But
Ross.
That's besides the point. Like, I do have small
Ross dressed for less.
Right now. And so I'm just like, okay. And he's like, oh, I guess the little purse I got you doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I guess I need to get you something better. Okay. And I really think that he told a lot of these lies because, like, he felt like I was some type of bougie girl or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. So some other little red flags that I also had was, like, that he would always, like, mention how him and the pastor, like, the conversations that they would have about me. Even, like, to other people, like, he was just it was very transparent, but also I just feel like some stuff, like, you don't need to tell me. He'd also mention, like, just like I said, very cocky things about his money, his finances, how his family, he sent his family a lot of money. He had a family member in jail that he sent a lot of money to. He sent a lot of money. He paid his sister's rent. He even mentioned how the sister had just gotten pregnant and was having another baby. Now he'd have to take care financially of her, because I guess the baby daddy wasn't around, and all these different things, right? He even one time mentioned, because one time I remember I wasn't feeling well, but I didn't really feel like going to the hospital or ER or whatever. He even mentions, he's like, you're 22 years old and you don't have health insurance? And I'm like, first of all, I do have health insurance. My mom pays for it. Thank you very much. But, just like little things like that, right? Now, do y'all remember I said that he sent me a screen recording of his messages. He'd even send like other little things trying to prove to me. Even when I mentioned the address thing a few different times, he'd be like, you're crazy, like I don't know why you can't find it. So at this point, he'd even tell me that, you know, at 11 o'clock at night, midnight, he'd even tell me how he was going on jogs. Now, mind you, we live in Columbus, Ohio. That's not very normal for you to go on jogs at like 10 o'clock at night, right? We had FaceTimed a few times at night. So before y'all think like, girl, what? We had FaceTime a few times at night. And I mean, he just like, you know, he'd be on the camera. It wasn't like he wasn't on the camera. It just seemed like he'd be in his bedroom like watching TV or whatever. He did order food out a lot. Like I did think that was kind of interesting. I mean, maybe he cooked once or twice, but I mean, he mentioned to me. But yeah, even told me how all of his friends, you know, the pastors and ministers that he were friends with, they only ate at 5-star restaurants. You know, he even mentioned how he was gonna try Chili's because, you know, I like Chili's, and he mentioned how he's gonna try their food or whatever, and all these different things. Okay, and so at this point, like I said, I know that where we were was like an Airbnb, and it was just a little weird to me, right? But like I never mentioned that to him that night. So y'all, he had even decorated the Airbnb with like roses and everything, like rose petals and everything. It was really cute. So that night I left and went home. Now he was on the phone. He'd always be on the phone like with his minister, the pastor of the church, right? Like, I mean, he'd get off when I'd come around, but like, let's say like we were meeting up for dinner, he'd be sitting there on the phone with him. Or that same night, he literally calls, like, or even after our dates, he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come over so we can debrief about the dates that I was on. Just make it very, very vocal. And even a few people at the church, like I guess people that he talked to knew that we were like talking or whatever, which I don't know, I thought was a little bit kind of weird because like I told him I didn't really want people to know. And now, mind y'all, so someone at his church, kind of knew some, like, people that I knew, too. So, like, I feel like he tried to, like, tell them to, like, kind of make it known a little bit. That I thought was a little bit weird, but I was just kind of, like, go with the flow. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Now, mind y'all, never been to his church, never visited, still haven't. So, just thought that was a little bit weird, but okay. And so, a little bit, so those are just some of the other lies that he tells. So after this first date or whatever, like I said, so he's on the phone with the pastor, but it doesn't look like he's on the phone. Like, it literally looks like he's talking to himself. And I asked him, like, are you really on the phone? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're tripping, da-da-da. So I end up leaving, y'all, and I go home, right? And like I said, y'all, he's one of the people he's always calling. Like, he's literally calling me. He'd always blow up my phone. Like, even one time, I'd be at work and I let him know, like, hey, I don't really want to talk to you right now. Like, I'm at work. Like, I just want to be focusing on work and just, I don't want to have to worry about texting or calling you back. He'd literally blow my phone up when I tell him I don't want to talk, or I'd let him know I want to talk to him later, right? And so, so this particular day, this is the day that I end up, like, cutting him off or whatever. Because I've noticed, like, all these red flags. And so, I forgot to mention, a few days before I actually cut him off, I was on spring break, and I was like talking to my waxer, and I was letting her know, like, well, she's kind of like, she my girl now, like she like my big cousin to me. And so I was telling her, and she's like, that house is non-existent, like where he's saying he lives at, because she looks it up on her end too. And so I'm like, yeah, like, girl. So that same day I go with my cousin, and I'm like, we about to drive past this street that he says he lives on, right? So I go up there, y'all, why is it literally an apartment complex? There's condos on the other side of the street, but the street that he said he lives on, it's a gated apartment complex. So I'm like, and I know there's no condos in there because one of my best friends literally, she toured those apartments. There's no condos back in there, y'all. So basically he's like, we go up in there, I'm like, there's literally no apartments in there, y'all, or no condos up in there that you supposedly own, or rent from someone, right? So, and he'd even mention little things like, he'd text me, he'd be like, hey, I just spent $200 on groceries. And I was like, oh, like, you know, like, cool. And he's like, yeah, but I got them at Kroger because Whole Foods didn't have one thing that I needed, which I thought was weird, because if you mainly shop at Whole Foods, you probably get most of your majority of your things there and get the one little thing that you needed at Kroger, right? But okay, excuse me, I thought that was really weird. And so he's like, you know, whatever, he just tells me this things, and I'm just like, he just mentioned a lot of these, like, I just thought were a little weird. Like, you don't need to tell me that, right? And so we go past there, and I'm like, he definitely doesn't live there. Like, there's no, like, that address is not in there. So that same day, he randomly mentioned to me, I said, oh, when's your mom's funeral? Because at this point, it's been about 2 weeks since his mother passed away. He's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to go to the funeral, but I think I'm going to pay for it. What? And mind y'all, this is like in the middle of the week, maybe like Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe a Thursday. That Friday, he's supposed to be going out of town to preach, right? I see no flyers, nothing about him going to preach. And if you're like into the churches or even just follow people who are ministers or preachers, most likely if they're going to go preach somewhere else, they post some type of flyer or, something advertising that they're going to go preach in another city or state or whatever the case may be. And so I just thought that was weird that like I never saw anything like that. And so he mentioned something about his car, and he's like, yeah, they just called me again and said that my car was going to be $15,000 to fix. I'm like, what? Like, what kind of car do you drive, right? So I asked him. Mind you, I'm sitting there with my cousin. She's actually sitting right here. But I'm sitting there with my cousin, like, me and her like this. And he goes, I said, what kind of car are you driving again, y'all? He says a Urus. She looks at me, she said, Trinity, I don't know what a Urus is. She's like, that's what, like, rappers drive and stuff. Like, she's like, you have decent money if you drive this kind of car. I said, huh? He told me he drives a Urus, y'all. And if you don't know what a Urus is, it's a Lamborghini, and it's probably about like $200,000 to $300,000. I'm like, what? So at this point, I'm like, oh yeah, he's lying. Then y'all, he proceeds to, I was just like, oh wow. So I'm playing along with him at this point, and he goes, yeah, and like this. He said that the oil changes cost $500. Now, mind y'all, he's mentioned to me multiple times that he had an electric car. So how do you get oil changes and you have an electric car? That is not making sense. I said, well, what year is your car? He says a 2022. Now, y'all, I'll go do my research. They did not start making hybrid models of this Lamborghini until 2025. So there's no way that you have an electric car, right? So he's like, so I'm like, okay, I'm just playing along. He tells me he's not going to the mom's funeral, but he's going to pay for it, and they plan to have it the week after, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm just, like, playing along with him. So, this whole week, that's what I'm doing. Now, mind you, I think he can kind of tell that I'm starting to, like, just by my energy's off, because I can't fake it. I tried to fake it, but I couldn't. Now, y'all, he did tell me that in April, he would get a commission check, and he would send me $3,100. Now, I did want to stay for that buddy, but I knew God would get me if I just stayed for that. I couldn't do it, and I couldn't fake it long enough, right? So at this point, he notices something is off. So that Thursday, I remember, like, he can still kind of, like, tell something's off, because he even asked me, he's like, do you want to go to Tiffany's, the jewelry store, with me when I get back from Houston, da-da-da. And I'm just like, no, like, but I'm still trying to kind of play along a little bit, but it's a little hard for me at this point. So I'm just like, something is just like, it's just so weird. So that Friday is when I end up confronting him. So I'm at work that morning, and I remember I had to open that day, so it was pretty early in the morning, about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, right before 8 o'clock. And so he lets me know, he's like, he called me, but I did not, he texted me good morning, I hadn't responded yet. And mind you, I'm like actually driving to work at this point, and he called me, and I'm like, I did not answer. He texted me, he's like, hey, I'll just let you know I was going to the hospital. I was like, oh, like, what's wrong? And y'all, he tells me that he's been having very bad chest pains. He could barely keep his eyes open. He's like, I think he said, like, he was arthritic. He couldn't breathe, whatever. So I'm like, oh, are you driving there? And he's like, no, like, the pastor friend was gonna come pick him up and take him to the hospital. But he's saying he was feeling this way since 6 a.m. He even told me the night before he went on this jog at 11 p.m. I'm like, but if you felt that way, like, why didn't you go then? Like, you would have called the ambulance. So he sends me a picture of his leg in the passenger seat. It's like, just in case you don't believe me. So at this point, he knows that I've caught on to his lies. But, why don't you send me a picture of you at the hospital? So, a little bit later, he lets me know, like, hey, I went to the hospital, and they told me that he went to the ER, and they told him that he had fluid around his heart, but they just gave him medicine. Now, I don't work in no type of medical field. And even I know that if you go to the hospital for having fluid around your heart or your lungs, they're going to take you to surgery, most likely to drain it. They're not going to let you just go home. But that's what he says, right? And he even tells me that he had a previous heart condition or whatever the case may be.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
He's like, so I'm just like, okay. So at this point, he's kind of like, I think he knows that I'm going to end things with him, like, So he's kind of like trying to play victim, He's like, you know, I'll just stop talking to you right now so you don't have to be the bad person, like, y'all. And I literally told him I would text him when I got off of work. He's still texting me at work, just like, keep going, keep going, keep going. He's like, you know, like, I just, like, so you don't have to be the bad person, I'll end things right now. Like, he's really trying to get out of me what I want to talk to him about later, because he doesn't know. So he's really trying to push it out of me at this point. And I'm like, stop. So finally that evening, or no, mind y'all, he also sent me a 12-minute voice memo. I'm not listening to a 12-minute voice memo, and I don't really know what was in the voice memo because I did not listen to it, but I'm pretty sure he was just saying, like, talking about, like, our relationship or whatever. Mind you guys, we were never, like, I wouldn't say that we were really ever dating, you know. So yeah. And so, not in my eyes, personally. So, because I just knew something was off about this man the entire time. So, a little bit later on, I end up confronting him that night. So, at this point, y'all, I got everybody on the phone. My one of my close guy friends, my cousin, and one of my best friends. And so, she's on the phone as well. So, we're on group FaceTime on my iPad, and I got him on my phone. So, I end up calling him. I'm like, hey, you know, like, I'll talk to you. So I end up talking to him, and I confront everything, y'all. And y'all, this man lies again. He lies about everything. We're on the phone probably for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So he tells me that, you know, he told me, I'm like, there's no way that you bought you a Lamborghini in your name, because literally you got sued by a car company. They would not give you that much of a car loan. Mind y'all, I major in finance, and even anybody who knows nothing about finance would know this. They wouldn't give you a bank won't give you a car loan for that much money. Like, if you have that on your credit, he would have had to buy that car in cash. But he tells me that the church paid for it. He told me that the church bought him this car. He said that the church made $1.5 million a year. He said that they're even about to get new construction done, and they're paying $1.5 in cash for this car. I'm like, what? Or for this new addition that they're getting added on. I'm sorry. He tells me this. He tells me that, you know, like, he kind of skips. I even mentioned about his mom passing. You know, he just tries to tell me this sob story about how his mom just treated him like shit when he was younger. I told him I don't want to hear that right now. You know, he just tells me, he tries to say, like, oh, I thought some of the stuff you told me was a lie. No, you didn't. And I, like, let him know, like, if you don't have a car, you could have just been honest, right? And I let him know I seen a vape on you multiple times. So the second time I seen it was when we went to the Airbnb, and, you know, and he says that, you know, it was his cousin's because she helped him set up, so he just put it in his pocket. Okay. He even told me that I mentioned, you know, that being an Airbnb, because I even looked up who owned the property, and it was an LLC that owned it. He told me that, you know, he knew somebody, he had a buddy who invested in Airbnbs, and I'm like, well, so you don't know what the LLC is called? He said no. He said, I just gave him money. No one just gives somebody a few $1,000s and does not know what they do with that money, right? And your name's not on anything. So that's what he told me about that. You know, I let him know I went past where you said that you lived at, and you don't live, like, there's no condos over there. And you know what he tells me? He's like, oh, there's condos in the back, but there's not. I was like, no, there's not. Like, you're a liar, you know. And all these lies, you know, he just tries to keep up with them, y'all. And so, also, he ends up canceling his trip because he went to the hospital in South Carolina that day. He said the doctor told him he couldn't preach for a whole month. I don't believe it. Does not sound right. Okay, you know, cover up for him not going to South Carolina. So then he tells me, oh, you know, like, basically that I'm crazy, whatever. So I'm just like, okay. So we end the phone call, y'all. He calls me again, and I'm like, what's up? He's like, I just trying to understand you. Like, I really don't understand what's wrong with you. I'm just like, you're a liar. He calls me a third time. I said, okay, are you gonna come clean about everything? He's like, I'm like, I'm telling the truth. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I was like, well, maybe I'll think about it. We could be friends. He's like, well, what does being friends look like? I said, I don't know. It's really late, and I've been going back on the phone with you at this point for a few hours. I said, but you can call me tomorrow or text me tomorrow during business hours. Meaning, you know, right, don't call me too early. Don't call me late, because this is not that. And we can talk about it, right? Do y'all know that next morning that he calls me at 8 a.m.? 8:50 a.m. to be exact. It's a Saturday morning. Why are you calling me? Now, granted, I do wake up pretty early, but why are you calling me? And then he texts me. So I blocked him. Yeah, don't have time for it at this point, right? And y'all, there's no way that this church, mind y'all, it's not a mega church that he also goes to. It's a regular, you know, a pretty small church, honestly. And so I'm just like, okay, dude. And so he tells me that. But anyways, I blocked him, right? So then he DM'd me on Facebook. Y'all might keep in mind, I don't have Instagram. He DMs me on Facebook, and he's like, why did you block me? Did not respond, right? So then he texts me again. He's like, what are you actually on? So I removed him from Facebook, right? Then I block him at this point. He literally ends up, like, I just block him.
Not gonna be the
or I
last
just
part.
Unfriended him. So a little bit later that night, it's about 11 o'clock. I remember I got out the shower. I look at my phone. He's called me from a no caller ID multiple times. And he's also called me from his email, like FaceTime audio. So I'm like, my grandma's like, just call him back. So I call him back. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, I just want to see how we can work this out. Work it out? I don't want to work anything out. You're a pathological liar. Like, you lied about all these things. And so, like, when you lie about down to where you got flowers for somebody, or where you grocery shop, or what kind of water you drink, that's kind of crazy. So I'm like, no. So he's like, how can we work things out? I said, there's nothing to work out. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I want you to leave me alone. And he's like, well, I do have something, like a little lie I did tell. He said, I actually don't live where I said I live at. He said he said he lives somewhere closer to the mall. And he said that he didn't want to tell me because he just doesn't trust people. But how you want somebody to be your girlfriend but you don't trust him? That don't make sense, right? But that's what he said. So then he also tells me, so I'm just like, at this point, I don't want to talk to you. So he ends up, he even reached out to me on TikTok, y'all. He DM'd me on TikTok. So I block him, and like, y'all, why, as I'm blocking him right when we got off the phone, he didn't block me first. What is you blocking me for? I wasn't going to call you. So, yeah. Okay, y'all, so about 2 weeks later, now, I don't know in y'all city if y'all have busted, or like used to have a busted newspaper, but basically it puts people's mugshots in there, and it has their charges on there. So I have busted on Facebook. I look at it all the time. Y'all, I literally, about a week ago, I'm sitting at, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, I'm sitting in my car waiting, I'm at school waiting to go to class, and I see his mugshot on busted for a DV charge. Aggravated menacing and a domestic violence by threat charge. What? So at this point, I'm like, in Ohio, those are misdemeanors. So I'm like shocked. So I call my cousin. I'm like, Jordan, I'm like, oh my gosh, like literally, like this man got arrested for DV. Like I had no words because like, what? Like that could have been me pressing charges. It was just so scary. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow. So eventually, of course, they post like, they will send a subpoena to the victim and they post their name online because like I said, y'all, I do my research. Y'all, I look at her name, I go put her name in on Facebook. Why are there pictures of him and the children, 2 children, on her Facebook? I'm a little confused at this point. So then I go on to look up marriage license. Why is he married to this woman and they have 2 children together? So now, like I mentioned to y'all, I don't have Instagram, but on Instagram she has photos of him when the baby's fresh out the womb as a family. These people are a family. There's even photos of him at her brother's wedding. This is a married man with children. Like, you have children. You really tried to play it like this, like y'all were just engaged for 6 years and she had kids and they aren't your kids. Now, maybe they're not biologically his, but in my opinion, you were taking care of this kid since it came out the womb. That's your child. That is your child. So I'm just like, wait, what? Like, you're literally a married man with children. That is trifling. And you mentioned, oh, I don't need to lie to a 22-year-old, and you try to just talk all this mess. And you're a legally married, y'all. Never filed for no divorce. There's no divorce coming up. None of it. What is going on? You're a married man with children. And yeah, so I found that out the other day, and I just thought that was like crazy. Like, you're literally married, but you're a liar. So yeah. So maybe they weren't together, but I just feel like you should have mentioned that. He's never mentioned that he was married, never mentioned that he had children, would even talk down on people. You know what I mean? Talk down on people. But yeah, that's the story. I'll answer any questions. I mean, there was some other red flags, but if y'all have anything, I'll answer them faithfully. And if he sees this and tries to make a story time, I got receipts. So yeah, that's what happened. And then if the church, do y'all really make 1.5 million? Because if so, and y'all buying ministers, yours, I need to come see them. I need to come to this church as well, because I got college tuition, I got bills, I'm a college student. If that's the case, if y'all make 1.5 million a year. But yeah, that's the story, y'all. Okay, y'all, so there was a few things I forgot to mention and a few things I do want to mention. So one thing was that he did not have a driver's license. And I knew this because a lot of the court documents, that's what he got tickets for. And when I did confront him, I literally brought that up. And he was like, yeah, I don't have a driver's license, blah, blah, blah. But also, half of the tickets that he did get, the it was in collections, like he didn't pay for it. And I was like, well, if you make so much money, like why didn't you pay for the collections? And he's like, I just don't see why I should pay them back. Like just made like a big deal of it. But I'm just like, okay, I guess that's like your own credit to mess up, but whatever. And then also when he got arrested for DV, it also said that he was homeless on the court documents, and he got arrested at the wife's house. So I don't know where he was living while we were talking, but I do have suspicions to believe that he could have been living in an Airbnb. And I say that because remember I mentioned how he sent me a screen recording of all his messages or whatever. And one thing in the messages was like, you can tell it was like a text from like an Airbnb host or like a type of host, because they were mentioning something about like changing like the like the heating and cooling or whatever. And then also in that same screenshots, I did end up, when I went back to go look at that screen recording, I noticed how there was like some text, like literally y'all, there was like a whole Kroger pickup text. Mind y'all, those messages were when we first started talking, so like, okay. But you said you don't shop at Kroger, but literally I had a whole Kroger pickup confirmation, and it literally had like I said, the wife was in the messages. There was other text messages that like were just like, raise the eyebrow. But mind y'all, I did not really look at the screen recording when he sent it, because like I just like didn't care like when he first sent it. And then also he mentioned how he was not close with his family at all, which I just thought, I'm sorry, I'm looking at what I wrote down, but like I just thought it was interesting how he would send them so much money all the time if you're not close with them and they just treat you so bad. Like literally I'm talking about pay his sister's rent. Like I mentioned all that kind of stuff, and I just thought that was interesting. Now I'd never been in a situation like that or known anybody be in a situation like that, so y'all let me know, am I tripping? Like if you're not close with your family, would y'all send them a lot of money? I don't know, but y'all, I don't know. That was very interesting to me. It smells like cigarettes. Can you smell it? It smells so bad. Oh my gosh. And so then also, sorry for that, but and also, not to say that you can't have money if you use this kind of debit card, but he did use a Chime debit card. Now I'm not clowning nobody for using a Chime debit card. Hey, I'm not, I promise y'all I'm not. But I just thought it was interesting how he did, right? And he'd always be like, I never look at the bill when we go out to eat and blah 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 blah. Like, okay. And then he also told me that I gave cheater
I don't give a damn how much money I got. I'm looking at that bill.
And you're the liar? Like, you're literally a pathological liar, my dude. Like, but I look like I give cheater. I mean, to each its own. But that's basically what he told me, and I just was kind of like, okay. Also, I kind of feel like, y'all, this is like low-key my karma from like anything I've done in my past relationships bad. So, hey, Bookie, I'm sorry. So yeah, but we got that. And then also he did mention how, y'all, he told me that he was gonna go to the police academy, but when I went on his Facebook, I saw a screenshot that he had an interview to be a 911 operator. So thought that was very interesting. I don't know. Also, I asked him how he went to college. Like, did you graduate from college? He told me he graduated from the University of Cincinnati, but had no degree to show, but sends me a college party video. Okay. Also, what I thought was interesting was just like how he always wore the two same polos when we would go out. Like, y'all, the same two, not making that up at all. Very interesting to me. He would play victim a lot, like, and like try to like sabotage and like make me feel bad. He'd be like even like with that whole hospital thing, I feel like he did that to make me feel bad. Or I'll break up with you now. Don't understand that. Did not understand that at all. Also, I never really looked at, like, I never had no real feelings for him. I'm gonna keep it real. Never did. I was not attracted to him. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was bored. I was really bored. Like I mentioned, I've just got a long-time relationship not that long ago. Maybe 8 months ago at this point. I don't know. But a little minute ago. And I'm like, I was bored. Honestly, I'm gonna keep it real, y'all. I was bored. Okay? So I never really looked at it as dating. So if this man tried to go around saying that I'm his ex, I'm not. Also, he would kind of like judge people. Like, he'd be like, telling me that he doesn't eat junk food and he doesn't eat snacks and stuff because he said it throws off his pH balance, y'all. That's what that man told me. Yeah, interesting, very interesting. Not saying that you shouldn't eat good as like clean as a man, but I just kind of feel like that I never heard a man say that, like, ever. Okay, so y'all. And then also, he also told me that he never came in a female, but you have kids. Now, I can't confirm those are his biological kids, but I just thought that was very interesting. And then also, I never had no sexual relations with this man. We never had sex, no. Make that very known now. And so yeah, those are like some of the things I just feel like I forgot to mention in the videos, but there it is. If y'all have any questions, I will answer them. And I have proof to everything. Like, I have receipts for all of this. I can, if anybody wants me, comment and I'll reply to your comment. Y'all have to remind me because I will forget if y'all want me to upload the video of like what the Airbnb looks like. Also, I did like look up all the addresses that he gave me on the auditor site. Literally none of them came back to his name that he owned anything. And if y'all saw this church, y'all will see where this church does not make 1.5 million in a year. Literally, the church is just now getting rid of pews and putting in chairs. Like, and literally the wife and the husband don't even, like, the pastor and the first lady don't even drive Lamborghinis. They drive, you know, your regular cars. So yeah, your typical non-luxury car, right? Like, yeah. So yeah, so those are just like, I literally have proof for everything. I just wanted to make that very clear. And yeah, like, yeah, I'm trying to think if I forgot to say anything, but those are just like some of the main things, like, in the red flags that were really weird about him. Also, I low-key kind of feel like that he had been plotting on me, because not like, just like I did, I feel like men and women should do their background research, you know, go through their page a little bit, see what you can find, because you might find a red flag there. But he did mention something about my ex, which I did not like that. And if you know me, I don't play by my ex, but yeah, that was a little weird to me. But I think that's everything, y'all.
Hell, I don't know no Jackson. I know.
Damn. I don't know what this is, screen recording. Oh, Kroger pickup receipt. That's crazy.
Somebody, I'm gonna reply to her comment in this video, but somebody asked me, so did his mom really die? So I did some more research, y'all. And his mom is not dead, y'all. Nor did she. It doesn't look like she, well, I don't know, but I think he lied about her being in the hospital and ODing or whatever the case may be. So yeah, so basically I found this out because I looked up an obituary and I looked up his name. So I found an obituary of his grandmother that was maybe like dated like 2 or 3 years ago. His name's in the obituary as long as with his sister's name. And so I then go on and find his mom's name, right? Now there was like something dated from 2019 with the mom's name on it, like an obituary, and it did say that her children was his name and the sister's name, right? But I'm like, let me look her name up on Facebook. So I look her name up on Facebook, y'all, and basically the mom has posts from literally like 2023, 2024, and 2025. Like, her last post that I can see on her Facebook was from March 2025. It's like a month ago. And literally, y'all, she has pictures of him on there, you know, her daughter, his sister, and there's also pictures of him and his wife and their kids. And y'all, those is his kids. Those are definitely his kids, because one, the mom's saying my grandkids, but then also them kids have the same last name as him, y'all. Them are his kids. So it looks like they got married before, you know, I think before the kids were, or they got married after the kids were born, or whatever the case may be. But them are his kids, y'all. So he lied about having kids, and I'm gonna insert messages that he has sent me, basically saying like that he was waiting to have kids or whatever. Sir, you have kids and you have a wife. Be for real. And your mom's not dead. Why would you lie about your mom dying and you're a minister? So I just feel like he shouldn't be preaching at this church, y'all. He shouldn't be preaching at any church, really. Preaching, being a minister, serving, anything, a deacon. No, you need to be sat down. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna reply to a comment here that said the church need to see this, because I 100% agree, and they do. Now, mind y'all, the pastor and first lady have seen the videos. They haven't said anything to me or commented on any of the videos. Also, other pastors and churches around the city have seen it, and it's like other people have seen it too that live around the city. And so I just feel like something needs to be done about this, man, because how you a minister but you a pathological liar? And y'all, so I came in contact with another girl that he was talking to, and we both admitted, you know, we was bored, y'all. This why you don't be bored and talk to people. But anyway, Y'all, why was he lying to her too? Telling her the same stuff. Talking about God made you be my wife. And mind y'all, he was talking to us at the same time. Pretty much the same time. Talking about God made you to be my wife. But except he didn't have a Lamborghini this time. He had a BMW with her. Yeah. Same AAA lies, y'all. But except he was divorced that time. You know, in that life that he told her. He's divorced though. What? Y'all, this man is scary for real. Like, this is not even funny. Like, this is really scary. Like, I just feel like something really needs to be done about this. And I don't know if he's seen my videos or not, but he knew I had caught on to him a long time ago. I'm talking about y'all the first week of talking. So I don't know if he saw him yet, but he know I'm telling the truth about everything. He know he a liar. I would never come on this platform and fake it, y'all. And then it was just so crazy because I'm telling y'all, this man, she's telling me the same stuff, how he would stay at work late, y'all, and he would Uber home. Crazy. This man is literally a pathological liar. But yeah, so if I end up having another part, y'all, I'll come on here and tell y'all, or something else. But yeah, y'all, that's what happened over this past week after the series dropped. So yeah, thank y'all for watching.
What to do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. Back in the confessional. Yes, we stay in the lit, big dog, man. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Shout out to my player partner, Lucky Wizard Deals. He keeps it lit. Like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Hit the links below. We got HiveMindLabs.com. You can unbig that back. And we got the Moogs Coffee, okay? We also got Opulence Scents. Now, let's get into it. If this was a butane lighter and a striker, girl, your ass would have been gas lit. But I don't know, it's guys like this that really, really make it difficult to date, because then you hear these stories and you hear about all the women that's just like, oh, let me check out this background, let me dig up this and dig up this, and then, you know, they dig up so much, they be like, At one point, that's why I was just like, man, you might as well just tell these chicks everything, like, don't even hold back, because, like, but then you don't want to be too open and out, because you just going to be talking to girls and telling them all your life story, and they're like, oh my God, he got so much going on. You really be like, man, really, I don't. It's just, I'm just trying not to have you walk into a relationship and being like, oh, I don't even know you, dude. This is crazy. This girl. Well, here it is. I'm making it rain on you, red flags, and I'm gonna let you decide. Like, why would I hold that back? Like, honestly. But women do, like the stuff that she's telling us about him. Imagine the red flags about her that we won't know. You know what I'm saying? She's not just gonna up and tell you everything. And then when you know girls, you be like, oh man, she a good woman and all this stuff. But then all the little stuff start to come out, and you just be like, man, dude, wow, this chick is a headache for real. But then you got her feelings involved, your feelings involved. Now you done been raw dogging, busting all up inside of it and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden, you find yourself in a relationship that you can't get out of, and the reason why you in it is because the woman didn't keep it solid. No woman is gonna jump out there and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm crazy." So we talk about a guy who's really in a relationship, telling his woman, "Oh, I got this and this and that." He's lying. First of all, men with money don't brag about it. You know, I ain't bragging about not having no money. But if I tell you how much money I got, I start with the littlest. Like, man, this what drives me to do what I do is because I remember only making $300 every 2 weeks. That's my story. That's my story. I'm gonna use that story all the time because that's what made me who I am. But guys that come around be like, yeah, well, you know, I made this much this week, because they ain't never made no real money. But whatever. I know a guy that used to lie like this, and he used to talk about he a preacher and all this stuff. I'm like, man, he got the answer for every damn thing. I said, nah, I ain't no woman, but this nigga lying to me like he think I'm a woman and trying to impress me, and that ain't working. So when I finally, what this dude, this dude used to talk about how he a Mason. He wasn't a Mason, his brother a Mason. But then he had the tattoo on him, and I'm like, ooh, this is crazy. And then he used to tell us stuff that you're not even supposed to tell as a Mason. I didn't know, but later on down the road, I was like, nah, bro, that ain't it. This nigga was lying to you. Then not only that, I remember like him talking about coming to the judge and how the judge was gonna let him out. He was like, yeah, I gave the judge the secret, the secret signal. And I know the secret signal. And when I go to a judge, I ain't gonna lie, one judge, I was like, this guy gotta feel me. So when I got up there, I hit him with this, and then after that, case dismissed. I was like, this shit makes sense. But the guy who I'm talking about, he used to say the same thing, and that fool was locked up with me for like 6 months. So, and he was in there for domestic. But anyway, this pastor, I just don't know what to say about him, because it's not even like he's lying. We know he's lying. You didn't know he was lying. In fact, you're 20 years old, and he was probably 19 at the time. He was manipulating you fast. And I hate that for you, but that's why I say men gotta have close relationships with their daughters, so their daughters will understand and they'll come to them for certain things. And yeah. Shout out to Trinity though. She'll make it. Anyway, everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, and holla at you later. Peace.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as quick as 1